Hi, I'm Dr. Michael L. Johnson. I'm a board-certified chiropractic neurologist. I've been in practice in Appleton, Wisconsin since 1983. I'm the author of this book, What Do You Do When the Medications Don't Work? A non-drug treatment of dizziness, migraine headaches, fibromyalgia, and other chronic conditions. I consult with over 1,000 chiropractors across the country. You can look at our website that we have with our group. It's at lifechangingcare.com. That's lifechangingcare.com. So I'm here today to talk to you about stroke rehabilitation. Obviously, someone you love, or perhaps yourself, has suffered with a stroke, and that's why you are watching this video, or you've requested it on DVD. And there are two sides to stroke rehab, and unfortunately, in a lot of cases, people, when they have or suffer a stroke, are rushed through the rehab process. And I don't care if you suffer with stroke antalgia, where the upper extremity is in a flexed position and the lower extremity is in a extended position. There's still help for you. I don't care if your stroke happened 5 years ago or 10 years ago. What I'm about to share with you is how we can get you better treating you neurologically and metabolically. I'm talking about functional neurology and functional medicine. That's what I'm here to address today. So what makes us different from every other doctor you've seen? Just that, neurological and metabolic treatments. So, I'm here to tell you we don't leave any stone unturned to get to the bottom of helping you heal from a stroke. And there's two types of strokes you may or may not know. One is ischemic, lack of blood to the area. One is hemorrhagic, or a blood vessel explodes. So how do I successfully treat victims of a stroke? Well, I just told you, we're going to cover the metabolic side first, and then we're going to cover the neurological side. First thing we want to do is blood work. We want to do a thyroid panel, controls all body metabolism. We want to do a complete metabolic panel. We want to do a lipid panel. We want to do a CBC without a differential. And I can hear what you're saying right now. I've heard it before. Dr. Johnson, I've had the blood tests. They're all normal. They're all normal. Nothing wrong there. Let me tell you something, folks. There are lab ranges which are very broad. There are optimal or functional ranges which are a lot narrower. I'll give you one example. Thyroid stimulating hormone. Your thyroid stimulating hormone, well, normal is 0.5 to 5.0 in the lab value. Guess what it is in functional ranges? 1.8 to 3.0. Do you see why I'm telling you you need to be as thorough as possible, and you need to look at things functionally? So, we can assess your thyroid, your adrenal glands, your liver, kidneys, red and white blood cells, gut function. All these are going to relate to how you heal, your ability to heal, and how you heal from this stroke. Sensitivity testing. We're going to see if you're sensitive to gluten, milk, soy, eggs, and yeast. If you're sensitive to any one of those five, it's causing inflammation in your brain, I guarantee you, and inflammation in your gut, and this is hampering your rehabilitation. You're not going to get better, and I don't care what they do in rehab. If you're sensitive to gluten, and every time you eat a piece of bread, it's causing inflammation in your system. And gluten is wheat, rye, oats, and barley. So here are some of the symptoms of sensitivities: chronic pain or fatigue, frequent indigestion, bloated after eating, frequent loose bowel movements, constipation, mouth ulcers. The only way to find out if you're sensitive is to run the test. We look at an adrenal stress index. Your adrenal glands sit right above the kidneys. Adrenal glands are your stress glands. You've obviously been under a great deal of stress because you've had a stroke. If you suffer from insomnia or have blood glucose problems, blood sugar levels are skewed, then you have a problem with your adrenal glands. Needs to be checked. We look at your immune panels. A lot of times stroke victims are autoimmune. Their immune system is attacking their brain. If you're autoimmune, you're never going to get better. I don't care what the rehab is. It's not going to improve. There's two parts to your immune system, folks, Th1 and Th2. You want to find out which one is dominant if you're autoimmune. How do you know? Blood work. If you're Th1 dominant, you're going to see high markers. What are the markers? TNF-alpha and interleukin-2. If you're Th2 dominant, what are the markers? Interleukin-10 and interleukin-4. Those are going to be high. You see, Th1, interleukin-2, TNF-alpha, Th1 is T cells. This is the army that goes out, attacks, and it cleans up. Helper T cells, suppressor T cells, natural killer cells, regulatory T cells, and macrophages. If you're Th2 dominant, that's B cells. B cells make antibodies. B cells tell the T cells what to attack. So that's the difference. That's what you're looking at. Then, say for instance, you had a stroke, you're Th2 dominant. I'm just giving you an example. What's causing that dominant? Is it an active antigen or is it dysregulation? What do I mean? An active antigen are parasites, bacteria, viruses, mold, yeast, fungi, protozoan, foods, those sensitivities that I told you about. Chemicals, heavy metals. The best indicator for an active antigen is the cause of patient's abnormal dominance is the helper suppressor T cell ratio, also called CD4 and CD8 ratio. If it's 2.5 or above, it's a problem with active antigen. If it's 1.2 or below, it's a problem with dysregulation. What do I mean by dysregulation? An anemic problem, a blood sugar problem, a gut function problem. Another test for an active antigen is for H. pylori bacteria. That's a breath test. You may have leaky gut syndrome. What is leaky gut? It's a condition of altered or damaged bowel lining caused by antibiotics, toxins, poor diets, parasites, or infection. We may want to look at your neurotransmitter levels. That's the form we have in the packet. And if you're watching this online, request the information under the contact information, the 2 free visit information. We may look at hormone panels. Hormones can have a lot to do with your ability to heal. Well, we know you've got inflammation in your system, so we're going to look at C-reactive protein and homocysteine levels to see what and how much. We use glutathione. Glutathione, to help treat you metabolically, is the mother lode of antioxidants. So do you see, unless you address this metabolic side, you're never going to truly heal from your stroke. That's why you've been, I see a lot of stroke victims, and they've been through rehab and nothing worked. So here's how we treat you neurologically. Your brain and nervous system need 2 things to survive. One of the things we do is we use oxygen therapy. And the 2 things you need to survive are fuel and activation. Fuel is oxygen and glucose. We covered the glucose on the metabolic side. Oxygen, as you age, your ability to utilize oxygen decreases by 1% per year. I'm 50 years old. From the time I was 25, it's decreased 1% per year. I've lost 25% of my ability to utilize oxygen. It's called oxidative phosphorylation. So, if you have a stroke, we want you on exercise with oxygen therapy. If you have a stroke, and you can't move your right arm, in the old days, the therapists used to say, well, then work the good side, work the left arm. Well, guess what, folks? We want you on oxygen. We want you and have somebody moving that arm. That's a therapy. Fuel and activation. Fuel and activation. Fuel and activation. That's what's going to help you neurologically. But unless you've addressed that metabolic side, you can do fuel and activation until the cows come home. I could treat you like this for the next 5 years. You're not going to see a change. If you're eating gluten and every time you're gluten sensitive and every time that you eat gluten it causes inflammation in your brain and your nervous system, no amount of fuel and activation is going to help you. Do you see what I'm saying? It's got to be the right and left hand together. We use brain-based therapies. We may use vibration therapy. Vibration stimulates the back part of the spinal cord, fires the cerebellum up to brain, down to lower brainstem. We may use a laser. We may use decompression. We may use something called an interactive metronome, auditory, visual, and motor stimulation. So you see, we treat you metabolically, we treat you neurologically, and with those 2, we help you heal from your stroke.